Well, hey everybody, Merry Christmas. It is December 25th. Today I was thinking about a video on the AlphaSmart Neo because I had one of my viewers out there who requested this pertaining to how to install new fonts for your AlphaSmart Neo. So this gets into the subject of how to change the fonts, the default fonts that are in your machine, and how to install new ones. Stay tuned, please. So let's first talk about how to change the fonts. So turn on my machine here, and I have a file in the file 1 position, and it's probably an old blog article or something. So to change the fonts, you want to see these bottom 3 keys on the left, the Control, Alt Option, and Command key. What you do is you hold down all 3 at once and hit the F key for font. And when you do that, you're going to get a list of fonts to choose from. And my particular machine has the default fonts still loaded in them, so I'm currently using the system in size, which is 4 lines to the screen. You notice there's a little plus symbol telling you which font you're currently using. There's a small size, which is 6 lines. Medium is 5 lines. There's a large size font in 4 lines. Very large in 3 lines, extra large in 2 lines. So let's choose the small one. That is what it looks like in the small mode. And yes, you get 6 lines on the screen. It gives you the ability to see more of your text in one snapshot, but the quality of the lettering is not as good, and you might not like that. Control Alt Command and F. Go back to this. Let's go to the medium size. So that's the medium size. It's 5 lines on the screen. It's a nice compromise between the quality of the type, of the font I should say, and the how many lines you get on the screen. So not too bad, but let's see what the larger ones look like. So there's the 4 lines. Let's go to the very large, is 3 lines per screen. So now you're starting to get into, the letters are getting so big. So let's see what else. An extra large is 2 lines. So this is really big and probably unusable for an adult writer. But again, I was using the system font is the default style. There are 2 different 4-line fonts to choose from in the default AlphaSmart Neo font selection. There is the so-called system 4-line font, and then further down is the large 4-line font. Let's look at the system 4-line font again. And going back to our little article here, you'll notice the top line in the display has the start of the first sentence. There was a particular moment at yesterday. So that phrase fits on the top line of the display. Let's go and change now to the other 4-line font. So Control Option Command F. We'll arrow down to the other 4-line font, select it. And now looking at the display, you'll see that that first part of the sentence is rolled off. The word yesterday's is now rolled off to the second line. And the reason why is apparently that large size 4-line font, the letters are wider than the system's font. In the default font selection menu, you have your choice of a wider or a narrower letter in the 4-line category. Well, when the AlphaSmart Neo was released, and the Neo 2, Renaissance Learning only provided those default fonts to choose from that we just saw. But there is a community of AlphaSmart aficionados on the internet known as the Flickr AlphaSmart Writing Tools group. This is a Flickr group. I'll leave a link to the group in the information section below if you're interested in looking at that group and joining them. And the reason why I mention them is because they are one of the premier, maybe the only real experienced group of aficionados of AlphaSmarts that goes back at least a decade. A lot of resources in those past discussion threads for you to search through. But in that community of AlphaSmart adepts, people have discovered how to create new fonts for the AlphaSmart and how to load them onto the machine. So we're going to talk a little bit about doing that. But before we do that, we need to talk about backing up your files in your AlphaSmart, because we're going to synchronize the AlphaSmart with the Neo Manager software on your computer, and that's going to be how we're going to transfer the new fonts. Let's talk about backing up files, which gets us into naming files. Okay, so it'll be helpful to you in this discussion of how to back up your files to talk about how files are named and organized. And I've covered this in previous videos, but it's helpful if I include this in this one video. So anyway, you have 8 file buttons. Each one of those represents a memory location where you can write a document in, and you don't have to name the documents necessarily. They can just be in these files. So let's turn on the machine, and in file 1 I have this blog article that we were looking at earlier. File 2 is empty right now, and so I'm going to open a named file that I've already saved onto the Neo and load it into file 2. So I do that by hitting Control-O, and I have a list of all my files, and the top 8 files are the default file boxes, or file keys. You'll notice there's an asterisk by file 2. That means that's the one we're currently trying to load into. And if you arrow down with your arrow key beyond the 8 files, now you have named files that I've already saved under as a named file. And I can load, for instance, this story called Strip Mall Jesus, which is misspelled, by the way. I hit enter, and it loads it into file position 2. Now, I can edit this file in file position 2. When I'm done with it, all I have to do is hit clear file, and yes, I want to close it. And now the file is now empty again, file position 2. I can start a test file for file 2 key. And this test file, let's save it. So Control S. It's going to ask me for a name. I'm going to call it test2 and hit enter. Okay, now this file that originally was unnamed, I've given it a name, and now I can hit the clear file. Yes, I'm going to close it. Now the file 2 position is empty. I want to load a file into it. Let's load that file now back into file 2. So Control-O for open. And I arrow down, and in the list of files I'm going to see test2 is now there. Hit enter, and again it opens test2 back into the file 2 position. One thing to keep in mind here is if you're working on a file in one of the file positions and you decide to clear it out and work on something else, you kind of have to remember whether you've already saved it under a file name or not. Now let's try creating a new file. Let's say test3. Okay, and let's say I want to clear it. Are you sure you want to clear the contents of this file? Yes. Now I've cleared the contents of that file that I've just wrote. Let's go open a new file, Control-O, and let's go arrow down and see if file 3 or test 3 is there. Test 3 is not there. So we lost the contents of what we wrote because we didn't save it. Okay? So this is all to show that how you can be writing documents in the file keys, but you want to save them with a name in the machine if you're going to temporarily close them out with a clear file button and open up something new or create something new in that position. So you can have more than 8 documents working simultaneously in your AlphaSmart just by naming them, clearing them out, and then starting new ones. But when you want to transfer all of your files inside the AlphaSmart to your Neo Manager software on your computer, the thing to keep in mind is Neo Manager software can only see the 8 file key files. It can't directly see all the other files in your AlphaSmart. And so what you have to do, if you have more than 8 files total on your on your AlphaSmart, you're going to have to load them 8 at a time, fill up the 8 files, and then transfer those via the Neo Manager to your computer, and then go back to the AlphaSmart, clear out all those files, and load the remainder into your 8 file keys, and again, sync it up to your computer and transfer those. This is the blog article in the File 1 position that I showed you earlier. This was about the ABQ typeout that we held back in mid-November of 2017. And you'll notice this is the very top of the file. I can't go up any higher. There's a little quirk when you are transferring files from the AlphaSmart to your computer via Neo Manager software. And the quirk is, if this is a named file, AlphaSmart Neo Manager will not see the name of the file. It'll give it the default name of File 1 in the computer when you transfer it. So you're going to lose the title of your file when you transfer it. And so for that reason, what I like to do is at the very top of my document, in quote marks, I type the file name. So this is going to be called ABQ Typeout, in quotes. And the reason why I do that is I know in quotes, I know it's the title, and it's at the very top of the document, so I know it's not the text of the document. But once I transfer this via Neo Manager to my computer, it's going to give it that default name of the file as File 1. I'm going to immediately go into my File Manager on my computer and rename this file with that name. First, let's talk about how many files I'm currently using in my file 8 file keys. Well, File 1 is this ABQ typeout document. File 2 is our test document, and I gave it my header with the name of the document so I know what that is when I transfer it. File 3 is called The Real Deal, and that is a fiction piece, I believe. File 4 is empty, File 5 is empty, 6 is empty, 7 is empty, and 8, I use File 8 as kind of an index. So there isn't actually a chapter 1 and 2. I haven't updated it, but oftentimes if I'm working on multiple files for a bigger project, I'll use the File 8 key as a way of keeping track of what the others have in them. And so I've just named it as index. Okay, so I have 3 files in my machine currently that I'm going to transfer. In order to transfer whole files from your AlphaSmart to your computer and back, you're going to need the Neo Manager software, and I have mine installed on my Mac Mini down here. And if you don't have the CD copy of it that came with your AlphaSmart, you can download it from Renaissance Learning's website, and I'll leave a link below in the description for that. But the other thing you're going to need is the cable for the AlphaSmart, and the cable has a full-size USB on one end, and it has kind of the printer-style USB connector on the other end. The printer-style USB goes to the Neo side, and the full-size USB goes to your computer. And on my computer, this is the Neo software, the Manager software right there. I'm going to go ahead and click on it and open it. Okay, now I'm going to plug the other end of my cable into my AlphaSmart. AlphaSmart does not have to be turned on. As soon as you plug in the cable, it'll turn itself on. And then you want to wait a few seconds and it will start synchronizing. And now when I click on the Neo USB button, you're going to see that here are the 8 files in my AlphaSmart that it can see. You notice it shows file number 1 through 8. It doesn't show any of the others, but it does show the first line of the text. And because we've put the title in quotes in the first line of these documents, this tells us what the title of the file name needs to be. Now, when I do decide to save these files off of the Neo, to back them up, I've checked just the 3 here. I'm going to click on Save Files. It's going to ask me what folder I want to put them in. I'm going to actually put them into the default Neo USB folder. Hit Choose. So it's going to retrieve them and save them. Okay, now I'm going to go to my File Manager on my computer. And you'll see here that the default names of these files is now just file numbers 01, 02, and 03, not what I actually named them as earlier. And so what I want to do immediately is I want to rename these according to what the file actually needs to be. And the reason why I'm doing this is because if you go and resynchronize your Neo again, it will ask you to overwrite these old files because it wants to load a file with the same name into the same folder again. It'll ask you to overwrite it, and I have lost files over the years by not thinking properly and actually letting it overwrite old files. So I want to first open up this file number 1. Notice the title is at the very top line, and I'm going to highlight and copy that and right click and rename. And I'm going to hit paste. Okay, I'm going to paste it. Now I've renamed it to what the file name should be, and I'm going to do the same with the other two. Now I have renamed these files with the names they need to be, and the next time I go to synchronize and back up my AlphaSmart Neo, it won't try overwriting the file names with the file 1, file 2, file 3 names. As I said earlier, it's a good idea to do periodic backups of your important files off of your Neo onto your computer using Neo Manager software. It's also a good idea to do this before you change batteries. There are the 3 AA batteries in the machine, and there's also a little watch-style battery inside that you have to take the back of the machine off to get to. That is a backup memory battery, but if your backup memory battery is weak, as soon as you go to change the 3 AA batteries out, you could lose everything on the AlphaSmart, all your files that you've written. So before changing batteries, it's always smart to do this file backup, as I've shown you. Well, let's talk about where do you get those new fonts from? I've already mentioned earlier that the Flickr AlphaSmart Writing Tools group is a great resource for anything related to the AlphaSmarts. And this is where I got these 2 links for Neo fonts that some of the AlphaSmart users have created. This link right here I'll click on. It'll be in the show notes below. And at that link, you will find PDF files. There's a README file, and there are the fonts themselves. And it is a zip file that you download. And in my computer, I had them download those files directly into the AlphaSmart application folder. So in the Mac OS, there'll be applications, and probably in Windows, it'll be program files. And under AlphaSmart itself, then there'll be a subfolder. This is AlphaSmart Manager 2 folder. And then you're going to have a folder that says Smart Applets. And if you open that, there's going to be a whole list of these files that have a file type of OS3K app. And these are all the smart applets that go into your Neo, but the ones that are fonts directly are going to say a Neo font with a name after it. So I have a lot more than the default fonts that normally came with the Neo itself, and these are the new ones that I've downloaded. So I've already backed up my old files that were in my Neo, and now I've already downloaded the new fonts from the website link, and they're in my Smart Applets folder. So you notice on the Neo Manager software, there is a tab that says Smart Applets. If you click on it, there's all the different applets for the Neo, including like a reader and quiz tools and the beamer and calculator and all that stuff that was used for the educational part of the Neo in classrooms. But if you arrow down here, you're going to find a bunch of fonts. I'm going to click on all these fonts that I would like. I'm going to select multiple fonts, hit add. Now they're listed over on the other side. And now if you go to the send list tab, and if you arrow down the send list, you'll see, hey, looky here, under the Smart Applets header, you're going to see all these extra fonts that we're going to add to the machine. We're going to click now, Send. There they are, adding all those new fonts to the Neo. And you need to get this message that's saying the send list complete, the send list completed successfully. Hit OK. We're going to go ahead and exit out of Neo Manager. Okay, so now I'm going to unplug the Neo from the computer, and I'm going to turn it back on. Okay, here's our file 1 about the ABQ typeout. Let's go to Control Option Command and hit F. And now let's see if we have any more fonts to choose from. System, small, medium, large, very large, extra large. Those are still the old ones. Oh, but look, Atto, bold, nano, solo, femto, Klingon, micro, mirror, neuropol, tech, and let's try the 6-line tech, shall we? Ooh, that's interesting. It's perhaps more readable because it's so bold. Let's go and open up some more. So let's try the 1-line tech. I have a feeling it's going to be really weird. Oh, that's weird. That's really strange. I guess for a certain type of writer that might work okay. The Neuropol, if I'm pronouncing it right. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, let's open up the mirror. Wonder if it's reversed. Yes, it is reversed. Mirror image font. Why would you need that? Kind of a weird thing. Okay, micro, 7 lines. Oh, now, okay, here you go. This might actually be a very usable font for writing because you get 7 lines of text in the display, but to my eyes, this is very readable. I think it's usable. This is a nice style font. Let's see what some of the others are. Klingon. That's just a gimmick. Sorry. So this is the femto font. It's not quite as nice as the 7-line nano font. Let's go to the others. Yeah, this is a 9-line font that actually for word processing would be practical. It gives you 9 lines of text. Hard to argue with that, and it's fairly legible. Let's go and see what else we have. The solo is 1 line. That sounds like a gimmick, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't think I like that. Let's go to the nano. This is 8 lines. Hey, you know what? This is quite readable for 8 lines. This might be the best so far. It's a compromise between the 7 and the 9, but it's very readable shape of letters. I really like this. And let's try the bold, 6-line bold. That is definitely bold. 6 lines, so you get the same number of lines in the original display, but obviously bolder letters. Let's see what else we have. The Atto. Oh, okay. 11-line display. I must admit it is usable. However, it's not ideal. The letters are a little pixelated and blocky, but if you really need to read it without doing a lot of down arrow clicking all the time, that's probably an okay font. And that's it. So I think of all of these, I think it's a cross between the 8-line nano and the 9-line femto and the 7-line micro. There's the 7-line micro. There's the 8-line nano. And the 9-line femto. I really think the 8-line nano is probably the best compromise as far as readability and number of lines of text on the display. Well, there you are. That was hopefully an informative instructional. You know, I did this kind of on the fly. I had already downloaded the fonts a couple days ago to my computer, but as far as loading them, I did this essentially real time as I was shooting the video, so it was very straightforward. Again, as a refresh, you go to the link for wherever the fonts are on the internet, you download them, and then you want to get them into the Smart Applets folder of your AlphaSmart program on your computer, and from there you sync up your AlphaSmart with the Neo Manager software, and then you are able to select those fonts as Smart Applets and then install them to your device. And again, as a word of caution, it's always a good idea to do a backup of your existing files off of your AlphaSmart onto your computer before you try any of this stuff, just in case something goes wrong. But for me, it seemed to work very straightforward. And now I have more fonts to choose from that'll make my AlphaSmart even more usable. And one other AlphaSmart thing I want to make note of is that my young granddaughter, I bought her for Christmas a used AlphaSmart Neo. I believe I found a seller off of Amazon, and I paid probably a middle-of-the-road price. I think it was about $35, and it came in pristine condition with a cable, of course. It did not come with the Neo sleeve that AlphaSmart sold for a while. These are hard to find. I bought one from my unit years ago when they were still being sold by Renaissance Learning, but for my granddaughter, I bought her a laptop computer sleeve off the internet with her name embroidered in pink on it. She got it last night when we opened up presents on Christmas Eve, and it looks like she's going to enjoy it. But I'm going to have to get that machine and install these new fonts for her so she has more to choose from. Well, I hope you guys got an AlphaSmart Neo for Christmas, and if not, go find one and buy one. They're pretty inexpensive these days, and if you do, go to the links down below, visit the Flickr AlphaSmart writing group, and that's a great resource. And then also the other two links for the Neo Manager software download and the extra fonts. And with that, I hope you guys have fun with your AlphaSmart and with writing in general and being creative. And until next time, have yourselves a great day.